Welcome to the Moment Masters Show, where we give you tips and tricks to help you master crucial moments with your customers and clients. In every episode, we help you strategize for long-term small business success. And now, please welcome your host, Shakira Brown. Yes. Welcome everyone to another episode of the Moment Masters Show, where we help you master the very moment in which you have the opportunity to sell your goods and services to your target audience. This podcast is all about arming you with the tools you need to achieve the growth and success you want. I am Shakira Brown. You can learn more about me at momentmasters.com, or you can visit my business website at shakirabrown.com. And if you are not following me on Twitter, why aren't you? It's so easy to do so. Just go to Twitter, enter at Small Biz Whisperer, that's at Small Biz Whisperer, where I post a myriad of tips and tricks of my own insightful musings, as well as some from small business marketing and sales gurus. So definitely check that out. And of course, you can see my social media links at momentmasters.com in the show notes for this episode or any episode. I'm so grateful for our program partner, Cowork Connection Plus, which offers 19,000 square feet of shared office space. If you're anything like me, you don't want the overhead of a long-term lease. You don't have to worry about that. You can get a day office for a week. You can do something for a month. It is all without a long-term commitment. You can also secure a workshop space for yourself through their conference room or their training area. It really is a great opportunity. And if you need a professional address in the United States on the East Coast, Cowork Connection Plus is in central New Jersey near Princeton, in proximity to Philly, in proximity to New York City. It's a great address to have for your business if you need one in the United States or in the East Coast. So head over to their website. Go to coworkconnectionplus.com. Again, coworkconnectionplus.com. You can also access that same site by clicking on their logo at momentmasters.com. You'll be so glad you did. So this episode is featuring one of my favorite topics to speak to small business owners / budding entrepreneurs about, and that is fear. If you have been listening to this podcast for a while, you definitely have heard me speak about the topic of fear as it relates to small business success. And if you haven't been listening for a while, well, you are going to hear all about how fear is so detrimental to businesses. It kills ideas, and it also kills your spirit. As a business coach and advisor, I hear entrepreneurs literally talk themselves out of doing something that can make them succeed. They are afraid of investing in their own businesses. They don't want to lose money. That's fear, right? They are fearing of failure is even worse. And then, of course, the fear of success. I've actually heard an entrepreneur say this: I don't want to do insert task or tactic because what if I can't handle all the new business I'm going to get? Is that really a concern of yours? Is that if you actually succeed in doing something that you won't be able to handle the business? Well, then maybe you shouldn't even be an entrepreneur or own a business of any kind, because that is the nature of the game, is that you do things to grow your business so you can gain more business, so that you can get more customers and clients, right? Mastering the moment of when something hits and it's a success. So I want to make sure that everybody has a clear mindset as it relates to fear. And I'm so pleased to bring my next guest to you. She is a transitional life strategist and coach and author. Her name is Randi Levin. She's amazing. And she has heard all of the same excuses that I just gave you for related to fear. And you will learn a bit about how she helps small business leaders, professionals like you, break free of fear and more right after this brief message. Let me ask you, would you like to make your product or service irresistible to buyers? Would you like to attract more prospects and customers easier and more effectively than ever before? Would you like to never again have to explain what you do or what you offer over and over again to the same people? Would you like to learn the one thing that will boost your business into action? If you've answered yes to any of these questions, then what you want is a brand strategy. If you would like to have a branding experience that is actually rewarding, enlightening, and nearly effortless, then check out my 3-month, one-on-one, private intensive brand coaching program designed for business leaders like you who are ambitious, busy, work hard, and are ready to invest in your future success. For more information, click the link in the show notes of this episode. You can also email me at podcast@momentmasters.com for details. Remember, only you can decide to make your business grow into one that allows you to spend more time doing absolutely what you love, or you can simply treat it as a hobby. It's your choice. My guest, Randi Levin, is a nationally recognized transitional life strategist, author, keynote, and reinvention influencer. She's the founder and CEO of Randi Levin Coaching. Her core belief is that we have the choice and the power to carve out and curate our own legacy based on embracing and understanding our ongoing evolution. Utilizing a, quote, what's next mindset, Randi applies her signature GPS coaching system incorporating growth, purpose, and success to empower women to pivot and to refresh their lives, becoming a legend in them. Check out her complete bio in the show notes of this episode. And of course, you can check out her website at randilevincoaching.com. Our conversation delves into the concept of how to fear less, avoiding fear of success, and how to take bigger actions to achieve what you want. Wow, isn't that something we all need to do? We had a powerful conversation, and I'm pleased to share it with you. Here's my interview with Randi Levin. Randi Levin, thank you so much for joining me on the Moment Master Show today.
Shakira, thank you so much. I love being in the moment with you. Great time.
Yes, thank you. So I've just shared with the audience some information about your background. And one of the things I talked about is the fact that you are a transition life strategist. And I wanted to know how you got started doing that.
Okay, well, very, very simply, coaching found me, and this is my transition in my own life. And so I'm a transitional coach, and for years I was in corporate America, and then for many years I was on the stay-at-home mom, CEO of mommyhood track, and this was my comeback in a big way. There were many little factors that came up that were really red flags for me in terms of reinventing and pivoting in my own life. And all of those tools and strategies that I used midlife to take me into my own business and into being able to help and support other women are the same tools and strategies I use in my signature program. And so, taking all those things that make us who we are and taking that forward. And that's really what pivoting in your life and transitioning is about.
So you aim to reach people who are, in the, sort of at a crossroads. And
exactly.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yes, and we're always at a crossroads. We just don't always acknowledge that. But, there's so many different seasons of our lives, if you would, so many different aspects of living that come up. So it may be business related, where someone is going from the corporate sector into, being a solopreneur. It may be a relationship issue. So you may be transitioning out of a marriage or transitioning into a relationship. You may be empty nesting or dealing with things that have been holding you back, things you've wanted to do all your life but you haven't really stepped into. So those are some of the transitions that, I deal with very regularly, where people just feel overwhelmed and they feel that they're at a stopgap between who they've said they're going to be and who they most want to be.
So one of the things that happens with people, especially when they have an opportunity to do something on their own, I'm very passionate about small business and entrepreneurship. And, one of the topics that I always love to address is fear. And, today's topic of this episode, on the flip side of fear, how to fear less now, I think is a great topic for folks who are maybe at the point in their life where they want to leave a corporate job because they have an idea for a business, or they'd rather be doing something that they're passionate about. Mastering the moment is all about, I think, kind of taking a look at your life and saying, you know what, let's just do it now. Why is that so important today, in mastering the moment and maximizing what you have going on in your life?
Well, it's amazingly important because it's where your energy is. And if we're living in the past and rehashing what we could have done or should have done or wanted to do, then our energy is behind us. If we're focused only on our goals, only on that big mountain that may be 5 years or 10 years or at the end of our life, if you would, then we're constantly trying to live in the future. And the only thing that we really have control over is what we're doing today, in the moment, as your podcast suggests, and really being able to take a look at legacy. And one of the cornerstones of my practice is really about discovering your legacy, because we think about legacy, Shakira, as something that we leave behind. It's that footprint, after we're gone that, says what we did. And I disrupt that a little bit, because our legacy is something that we have the power to curate, to decide, to choose in the current moment at any time and many times over. And so when we take a look at legacy as something we can control, it's a way to say, okay, well, I can be on the upside of that fear. I can go ahead and step into the footprint that I want to create. And it shifts your mindset, very much so. And what we have is this moment. We have the time we're in to impact. And so one of the things I always talk about is growth. The idea of we set the goals, but we have to measure the growth, because the growth is tangible, it's actionable, and it's today. What are those small successes that you can do right now? So if the big goal looks a little scary, you're not sure if it's the right time, if you have the money, if your family needs you, whatever might be holding you back, whatever may be in the way there and causing some of those fears. If we're able to say, okay, what can I do? It shifts all of it.
So fear is something that I think, whether it's personal or business, it shows up on occasion. I mean, everybody has their moments. I try to be as fearless as possible, but I have moments. Yeah, but you know what? I have moments of fear. And, I always give an example early on when I transitioned my side business into this full-time business I have now. I had some very small fear-related things related to, me using certain tools. I don't want to use this tool, and I was using an online accounting tool. It was great, but I wouldn't connect it to my credit card. So therefore, I'm still manually entering my credit card charges. Whereas if I just connected it to the tool, it would just bring all of that in every time I charge something. So. Right. I had that moment of what am I afraid of? I was like, the credit cards do protect you from fraud if something terrible happens. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. And it changed the way that I actually monitored my expenses, because it was automatic, and that was a small thing when it comes to fear, because sometimes it's fear of just being able to step out on your own. And how would you tell someone who creates what I call, roadblocks to their success, to try to work, maybe 3 ways that they can try to work on dispelling some of that fear they have from within?
Well, you know what? To your point, we all have fear, and we're not born with it, okay? We acquire it, and we acquire it very young, 7, 8 years old, it's in place. And so it becomes this thing this block. And we all are creatures of habit. If we're comfortable enough, if, it's good enough, sometimes we kind of stay in that versus, oh, I'd really like to do this. Not really. It's not the right time. And we kind of retreat. And so some simple ways to get past that is the first thing is to really give yourself permission. Well, it sounds simple, but remember those permission slips? I'm old enough, I can remember that. Permission slips in school, in elementary school, they used to be pink, right? And you get this hall pass, and you would be able to go wherever you wanted in the building, to the office. You were on a task. So the same idea still exists. Give yourself a permission slip to do something that you haven't done, to try something that you haven't done. And it could be the smallest little thing. It could be something of epic proportion. But mindfully do that. Write yourself a permission slip and then take that action. So that's one major thing. Another thing, and something that I've used in my own life, is that we tell ourselves these stories, right? And that's where the roadblock gets in. It's that limiting belief of we can't quite do it, we're not good enough, or we don't have the skills for it, or the money for it, or whatever it is. And so we tell ourselves stories, and we learn early on that a story has a beginning, a middle, and an end point to it, right? So the beginning is the thing you want to do. So let's say, I want to open my own business. Okay, now you've told the story. But we as humans tend to go to the end of that story, and we start telling ourselves all the excuses, all the reasons why that may not work. It may not be the right time, or maybe next year. Okay, we'll do it next year, right? And we become very good at procrastinating. So where I think that there's a huge bandwidth in which to shift that is to tell yourself and really try to be in the middle portion of that story. Because the middle portion of the story, guess what? That's today. That's where you have action. That's where you can write what happens. Nowhere else, okay? So if we write the ending, we don't live the story because we've already shut it down. So if you step into the moment that you're in, and again, ask yourself, what are those things I can do? Where can I show up with some growth in this? So that's the second thing. And the third big thing is to kind of really, in the writing of that story, use the word and. We use but a lot. I'd like to open my own business, but blah, blah, blah. We all know how that goes, right?
Right.
So substitute the but with the word and. Simple, right? So I'd like to open my own business, and I can start working on my website right now. There you have it, an action step, an opportunity opens up, right? Something of a positive nature happens, and you actually have the ability then to take a small action on something that has a bigger framework. So those are three really good ones.
I really love those because they're quite frankly, they're simple, right?
They're simple, and
it's not a heavy lift.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a heavy lift, and it can be done gradually.
And it's something that you can mindfully do over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And we all know when we start doing things repetitively, replacing that as but comes out of our mouth, say and complete the sentence, you start doing it, it becomes a habit. And when it becomes a habit, you start shifting. And once you shift perspectives, you shift and you pivot and you change. And you move away from that fear and fearing things as much as you may into fearing less.
What would you say to people who maybe they're the type of person who would get out there and do something, but there are naysayers in their ear? There are people that are close to them, family, friends, who, for whatever reason, they kind of instill fear. How do you deal with people who are around you who are constantly coming up with the negative while you're trying to be positive?
Shakira, that's a great question because I think almost everyone has that somewhere. Whether that's, your immediate family, whether that's your mom in your ear, whether it's your coworker, and people like to give judgment and opinion, and that's what it is. It's their judgment. It's their opinion. It's their limiting beliefs. It's not yours, okay? So at some point, we've got to be able to listen to our heart and listen to our mind and take some action for what we want to do and how we want to show up with something. And it's the only way that we can grow and we can change as people. And it's very powerful when we start to believe in ourselves. It's easy to listen to somebody else, but then, that's their point of view, and they're entitled to their point of view. But we need to show up where we want to show up to take action and do things in our lives. And I think that's one of the nice things about coaching too, and one of the things that I love about it is that I don't sit with somebody like their best friend. I'm not your best friend or your mom, and you're telling me what's going on, and I'm trying to fix you and tell you what to do. Coaching is very question-driven. And so if you find yourself in that type of a situation where people are telling you what to do, start asking your own questions. Start being curious about why something's important to you. What would you do if it were 10 years ago? Why is this your purpose? What do you get by doing this or trying to do this or stepping into this? Really start to ask the questions that you may not normally ask yourself. And you'll be surprised at some of the answers you're going to give yourself, because those are the solutions. Those are the things that are going to take you forward.
Thank you, because that, that's something that I think too many people let get in their way, is what other people say. And,
Absolutely. That alone is a fear, fear of not, stacking up in other people's opinion or, being seen as successful in someone else's eyes. But your success, whatever that is defined by you, and everyone has a different definition. For some people, success is totally monetary, right? For some people, success is totally feeling loved and feeling comfortable. For some people, success is just, getting through their day. So it's on every possible level of what that definition is. And it's a really good question to ask yourself, too. What is your definition of success?
And now that you bring up success, I'd like to flip the conversation to talk about fear of success. There are a lot of people that I've encountered in life that I believe actually fear what will happen if they actually succeed in what they're trying to do. And that's a problem. That's a wow. Yeah. It is a problem for a lot of small business owners who they create stories, as you say, that prevent them from moving their businesses forward out of fear of actually succeeding and maybe having to do more work or having to invest more money. Where does the fear of success come from, in your opinion? And what do you think people can do to work through something like that?
Well, I think a fear of success, the flip side of that is not feeling that you're somehow worthy enough or good enough to have something happen. So you're kind of, it's playing one against the other. I'm not really sure that I'm up to that, or that I'm going to be as good at this as I think I'm going to be. And so, you're creating all this anxiety and all of this fear around, what you think an outcome will be or won't be, without actually allowing yourself to live in it. And, we've got this one life. This is not a test run for the other one we're having. This is it. And so when I talk about legacy, like I mentioned earlier, we start thinking about what's the footprint you want? What's that definition of success? And again, what is your definition? Not your mom's definition, not your husband's definition, not your boss's definition, but your definition. And that can change and shift as we age, and should probably, because each chapter of your life is a different story. And so you may have made a decision in your 20s out of school or grad school to do something a specific way, and maybe you've been doing that for 20 years. And now you're really good at what you do, but you're afraid to go out on your own because, what if I'm not successful? What if I am? What is that going to even say? I know this, I don't know that. And yet we take these risks every day. Think about it. We get into our car, right? Or we take an Uber, or we take a Lyft, or we get on a plane, and someone's driving us, right? That's a risk. Think about all the casualties that are on the road every day. We don't really know the outcome of that, but yet we do it.
True.
And we allow that kind of risk to roll off our back because we have to. So it's the same type of thing. If you can identify what you want your purpose to be, and re-identify that in different stages of life, what you want that legacy to be, and if you can identify what you need to do to step into that, then where are those small pieces of that you can actually do and take that risk and get in that car and drive down that road and face that fear a little bit so that you can prove and reprove to yourself that you can do it and you are doing it and nothing is eating you and spitting you back out into the universe. You're good. So it's kind of proving it on a smaller scale. And maybe starting it in little baby steps, because those little steps all connect the dots. It's kind of like the jigsaw puzzle. You throw jigsaw puzzle pieces out, and I just did a big one, so this is so visual for me. Just throw the pieces out, and you have no idea how they're going to connect, but they do. And each one connects to another one, and tells a story. You do the frame. Okay, so the frame's in. Yeah, I can do this, And I think, Shakira, too, it's also how we look at fear in our lives. So for many of us, we're actually seeing this mountain of, oh my gosh, that's so hard. I'm never going to be able to do that. Or what if I get to the top of the mountain? How do I get back down? It's this big monster in the roadway. So shift your view of what your vision of fear is. So if this vision is this mountain or this monster or whatever it is, you got to kind of address it as the elephant in the room, so to speak. So we have to start to poke holes in it. What if I'm really successful? Well, let's just see. What is that? And take a look at it and poke some holes in it and have some jokes, make some fun with it. And actually envision this mountain or this monster or whatever this is that you're envisioning this fear as maybe something else. So maybe it's a feather instead of being a monster. And, okay, well, I can share space with a feather. I can walk right past that feather. It's actually kind of nice, So envisioning a different way of looking at the fear itself.
Envisioning a different way of looking at the fear itself. I like that. That's good, Randi. You're good.
Well, thank you. I use a lot of visioning. I really, because I'm a visual person. And if I can see it, I can grasp it differently. I can aspire to it. There's also another exercise I'd like to throw out there because I think that it's meaningful in this too, and sometimes it's kind of like a little reverse engineering. So if you find yourself up against this mountain of, okay, I'm kind of afraid of the success, I've identified that, reverse engineer it. Sit down. I'm a very listicle kind of person too. Make a list. What is the worst thing that can happen? And put it all down on paper. What are what's going to happen if you are successful? What's going to happen if you do fail? Whatever that thing is that's really hanging for you. And make that list. And then put it aside, go back and look at the list a day, 2 days later. And then make a counter list. So for each claim that you have of, everyone's going to laugh at me, or, I'm going to have to work twice as hard, or whatever it is that's showing up in that list, restate it in an affirmative, kind of an I got this sort of thing. I have the ability and the skills to make this work, So really taking a look at all those things that could possibly happen, and then refuting it and saying, can it really happen? Well, is it going to happen that way? Can I control how it's going to happen? So again, taking a look and pulling it apart and poking some holes into what the fear itself is.
The old positive affirmations, they do work. They always show up. But they work. They do work. I've done them for years.
We believe what we say and what we tell ourselves. If we're walking around saying, no, not so much, well, not so much
exactly.
is what's happening. If we walk down and we say, okay, say yes now and figure it out later, we're moving. We're taking action. We're moving forward. We've got more energy and more traction in what we're doing. So it does work, and it does help to try to manifest what we really want, and ask for the things that we want.
Absolutely. So one last thing, I want to address something that I'm seeing a lot more of in the last year or so are women in their 50s who are being what I call shaken out of corporate. They're given packages, obviously it's, they handle it with great care because there's some illegalities for actually getting rid of someone at a certain age. But I'm seeing this more often, and I actually lead a women's business, a chapter of a women's business group in my area. And these women show up to our meetings. We welcome them. We talk to them. And, they're kind of at like the point of like, okay, I'm too young to actually not work anymore. I need to work, but I was there for 30 years. I don't even know if I could be somewhere else now. And, they're at that point of reinvention. And in fact, what I say to them is they need to figure out their act 2 or 3 if they're on to their third one. Are you seeing more women, specifically women being thrown, I'm going to say it, thrown out of corporate at a certain, basically, blindsided by it, and kind of being left hung out to dry. You're seeing more of it.
Yes.
What are you telling some of these women that you encounter?
Okay, so here's the thing. Is the door closed or is the door open? And that's it. It's from your point of view. And yes, you've now been kicked out, in some way. You've been downsized. You've given your life to this organization or to this industry. And now you feel like, oh my gosh, what do I do? Well, what do you want to do? And that's the beauty of it, because years ago, in our parents' generation, our grandparents' generation, if you were a woman who was working, you were, expected as the men to, go into an industry, and you said you were going to do X, in your 20s, and that's what you did for 30 or 40 years, and then you got a watch and you retired, and, maybe you played golf, maybe you traveled, and then you died. That was the life, the lifescape right there. But that's all shifted. We're living longer, right? And nobody, or most people anyway, are not retiring the way they used to. Someone may say they're retiring, but they're opening some small business, or they're mentoring, or they're consulting, or they're volunteering, or they're doing whatever it is they're doing because we want to be viable. We're all connected and active and savvy and smarter than we ever were before. And so is that door now closed, or is it open? And is almost anything a possibility? So what is it that you were doing? Is something that you were doing that now you can do on your own? And this is the golden opportunity to be able to go out and open that business and be able to help other people or help other women or help, somebody in an industry that all of this about in another way. Or is there something that was a hobby that you've always kind of done on the side or wish you had more time for that you really want to do and you haven't? Or maybe you've always wanted to go back to school. Hey, why not? Why should we stop learning? Why should we stop inventing? Why should we stop being viable? Because something has closed, something else opens. It's a capacity thing. So think about, that water bottle that holds 12 ounces of water, right? Well, if you want vodka in the water bottle, you're going to have to let the water out. And that's kind of a fact, right? So in order for us to have capacity for something else, we have to make space for that. So perhaps the space that you now have in your life to do something else is what's meant to be. So how do you want to fill that? And asking yourself that type of question so that you start to pull from the things that, what are your skills? What do you bring to all of that? It doesn't have to be an ending.
I love that. It does not have to be an ending. And I just think it's, sometimes just so abrupt. They weren't prepared. And I guess perhaps the battle is being prepared, kind of having in your mind what you might do next should something happen all along. And sort of being a better planner, I guess.
Which is a different way of thinking than previous generations thought. You did that one thing, and maybe you did something else, but usually not. Now you can reinvent what you're doing career-wise, personally, professionally, how many times over? And it's good, and it's okay. And as a baby boomer generation, we're the largest aging population ever. We are changing this. We are reframing this in everything we do, and we are blazing a trail. And so if you think of yourself as a trailblazer and not, somebody at the end of something, at the beginning of something. What can I now do that's different? Yeah, good advice. And I hope that if we have any listeners who are at that crossroads in their lives, that they take that to heart. It's good advice. And I'm glad that we were able to address that in our interview today. Yeah. You've given some fantastic information. Thank you.
I want to make sure that our listeners are able to reach out to you should they want to and check out anything else that you have out there that they can learn more. You want to share any of your social, your website?
Absolutely. So I'm in residence always on my website at www.reinvention, RandiLevinCoaching.com. That's RandiLevin Coaching.com. And I'd also welcome hearing from any of your listeners. If anyone has a question or something that I may be able to support them in, and best place to reach me is Randi at RandiLevinCoaching.com. And if you like this podcast, and I'm fairly sure you will, I invite you to my website, and on the homepage you'll be able to access my Reinvention Summit audio collection. And it's 5 hours of workshops with the backup worksheets that go with them. And in the Reinvention Summit, I hit on some of the topics we talked about today. My signature GPS coaching system is about growth, purpose, success. There's a whole workshop on fear. And for $79, you can own all 5 of these audios and the worksheets that go with them. And it's a great foundation if you've been thinking about coaching or you want a little help in terms of pivoting or changing your life. Great foundation for that. And what I'm doing today for your audience is offering one of those audios, so 60 minutes with the worksheets, for free. And the only place you can get that link is here, okay? And that link is www.randilevincoaching.com/download-free-audio/. And Shakira, I know you're gonna reach out and print those out in a different way. But that particular audio is about fear, okay? And that's my fear workshop. And if you fall in love with that, you can come back and buy the rest of the package on my website. So that's what I'm offering today. And thank you so much. This was great.
Yeah, and that's a great opportunity for listeners. All that information, of course, will be in the show notes of this episode. And Randi, I just want to say thank you for joining me on the Moment Masters show. You've been a delight. I think we covered some good ground, and I think we put out some very positive vibes for people to fear less and move their lives forward.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. I enjoyed mastering the moment with you.
So let's recap. It's important for all of us to have a certain mindset as it relates to fear. It's important for us to have an understanding of what we fear so that we can tackle it head on. I like the idea that Randi suggested of putting that list together. What are we afraid of? And to remind ourselves. And what do we actually want? And to do affirmations, right? Write down a list of things that you actually want. To help dispel all of those terrible things that you've been thinking about that's going to help you to induce fear and to create a mindset of success. These are all very important things. And I'm so glad that Randi was able to share her insights with us on the Moment Masters show today. And I want to thank Randi for sharing her story about how she has helped women and individuals who are interested in transitioning from a place of sort of being stagnant to a place of success and actually doing what you want. Because success, if you think about it, is what you want, right? It has nothing to do with, as she said, with what your mother wanted, your father wanted, your brother, your sister, your best friend. It's about what you want. That is how you shape your success. And to truly do that, you need to have an understanding of how you're going to get there and what you really want, and to push away those fears that will stop you, that little devil on your shoulder that's saying, oh, if you do that, maybe it won't work out. Get rid of that. Focus in on the positives, and all you can see in your future will be success. I do it. I know other people who do it, and just do it on your end. That's all that needs to be done. And remember, you can find out more information about Randi Levin in the show notes of this episode. RandiLevinCoaching.com is the website. That's Randi with an I, Levin, Levin as in Nancy, coaching.com. Please go to the show notes, get the correct spelling, click on the links. Remember, she offered, there's some audios that she's offering. She has an ebook that she offers. Go on to the show notes of this episode and check it out. And follow Randi on social media as well. If you enjoyed listening to this program, please go to iTunes, rate the show, and write your heartfelt review. You may not know this, but by writing reviews, it makes it a lot easier for other people to find this show. In addition, if you go to momentmasters.com, click on the Become a Patron button at the very top of the page, and you will be shown some information about how, if you become a supporter of this show, you'll get some special stuff that's not going to be privy to anyone else, including some special sessions with me, one-on-one, so that you can define your own brand or talk about some of your business strategies with me. So again, go over to momentmasters.com and go to the top and click the button, it's green, that says Become a Patron. If you have ideas and advice on how to be a Moment Master, I'd love to have you on the Moment Master Show. Just send me an email to podcast@momentmasters.com. Again, email me at podcast@momentmasters.com. Share your topic, share your bio, a link to your website, and we'll go from there. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you for listening today. Be sure to subscribe to the Moment Master Show by subscribing and writing a review on iTunes. You will make it easier for other people to find this show. So, if you haven't subscribed, hey, why not do it now? Just go to momentmasters.com, where you can choose to subscribe via iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Podbean. You can subscribe on Player FM, but if you can do iTunes, I really would appreciate it. And again, write a review, because it does make this show more available to more people. This is the end of this episode, and I hope you enjoyed it. This is Shakira Brown, your host, also known as the Small Biz Whisperer. And wherever you may be and wherever time it is right now, I do hope you learned a little something to truly become a moment master. Take care.